Coming up on the show, the tragedy of Friday's gun attack at the CDC headquarters continues to rattle nerves across the metro area. We're going to examine how it all unfolded and if it could have been prevented. Also find out why some owners of Georgia's hemp businesses are taking state leaders to court. And one group of high school seniors in our area will be getting a rather valuable graduation gift next spring. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to give their take on today's top stories. Speaking of top stories, well, here's what we know about Friday's tragic series of events that took place at the CDC headquarters. Investigators say the shooter, 30-year-old Patrick White, first tried to get into the CDC headquarters but was stopped by security. Moments later, he drove across the street to a CVS pharmacy and opened fire. Now, it's unclear if White was killed by police or died by a self-inflicted gunshot. One CDC source tells 11Alive today that the staff at all Atlanta area campuses are ordered to work from home all this week. Killed in the attack was 33-year-old officer David Rose of the DeKalb County Police Department. He joined the force last September and had recently graduated from the police academy. Officer Rose leaves behind a wife and two children, a third on the way. Over the weekend, several CDC workers came together to find comfort and a source for answers over what happened. One of them, Dr. Elizabeth Soda, who left the campus just minutes before the gunfire. She told our Dan Kennedy that she started getting messages about the shooting as soon as she got home.
I broke down in tears. I probably cried for 4 or 5 hours that night, just trying to process how all of this happened, how we got here as a country, and what it's going to mean for our agency moving forward.
Here to help us find some answers is Marcus Snipe. He's the head of security and safety for our parent company, Tegna. He also served as a special agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service. Mrs. Snipe, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here.
All right, glad you're joining us. Let's start off with this. The CDC headquarters is a sensitive federal facility. Even though this gunman was stopped at security, somehow he went across the street, he fired back on that building. Is that even a shock for you? Is that's still possible?
Shock, I'm gonna call it a shock. Obviously, and I not knowing the investigation, obviously I'd like to throw that caveat out there, but you know, a shooter like this or a person like this would probably try or surveil that facility. I'm sure he had been by that facility a couple of times, kind of knew what he's up against, so he decided, hey, I'll try to breach their security this way, and he couldn't do it, so he elected to go for the next option, which is to try to attack that facility from across the street or nearby. So I'm not surprised that once he was confronted at the front gate and he couldn't breach security or make it past security, he decided to go with another option and still try to inflict some damage and carnage.
Yeah. Break down what you can for us about the protection of that Clifford Road campus at the CDC.
It sounds like they had a pretty robust plan in place. Obviously, this individual was not able to get on the campus where he obviously could have done a lot more damage. It's a slippery slope when it comes to facilities like the CDC. Being the facility that it is, it garners a lot of attention. A lot of people protest. A lot of people have opinions on what kind of work they're doing, and some of it's controversial, obviously, over the last few years. But there's a happy medium. You have that campus, you have that government building, and you have private organizations in the area. You have residences in the area, and you have other organizations in the area. So you can't just shut everything down for the sake of security. That's just not realistic. You have to have a happy medium between that facility and the general public and those private organizations and those residences there. So I think and not knowing in depth what the security apparatus or plan is for the CDC. I am sure that's been discussed. I think they have, contingency plans for events like this. I'm sure there's training. This facility, like I said, it draws a lot of attention. So it is no doubt that they considered, hey, who do we have around us? How can we not affect them and keep our security robust?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that the balance between, because obviously the inside of the building is one thing, right? When something happens inside, and you probably have the bulk of your security inside. But when something like this takes place on the exterior, right, across the street,
Yeah.
maybe from down the way, right? What's the balance there? Is that more of the local authorities' jurisdiction there?
Yes, and it is. It's it's coordination and cooperation between two groups. The facilities security and I think the DeKalb County, the local authorities, and there's a synergy that has to happen. For instance, if this happens, then hey, you respond. If this happens, it's our responsibility. That's a back and forth. That's a constant conversation, and that's a constant liaison with those two facilities, back and forth, throughout the days, months, years that they have, so they know what everyone's response is going to be. And you put that together. You put that together with your security plan for the overall building and the overall community. Because hey, like I said, hey, here's a high-profile building, so hey, we may get attention here, or we may call, the DeKalb Police Department here more times than not because someone shows up who may have a mental disability or what have you, or some protester may show up because they disagree with a particular, medication that we're working on or trying out. So you have that communication, you have that plan with the local police. You have to have that synergy, especially when it comes to a facility like this.
Yeah. And what are going to be the lessons learned from this, you think?
That's a great question, great observation, because after every incident, no matter how tragic it is, and even if it wasn't tragic, you have to do what we call an after action report. You have to see what went wrong and what went right. And I think one of the positives that's going to come out of this is, hey, the CDC, the DeKalb Police Department, hey, they're going to look at this incident and they're going to put together a plan or improve their plan so that, hey, if an incident like this or a similar incident occurs nearby at the campus, hey, here's the proper response. This is what we'll do going forward. And this is where we made our mistakes. And we make sure we don't make these mistakes again.
That's right.
So I think if there's a silver lining in all this, is that, hey, yes, both the facility and local law enforcement will come up with a plan now, a more robust plan. They'll critique their actions, they'll critique what happened, they'll critique their security plan, and they'll just make it better.
Yeah. All right. Marcus Snipes, thanks so much for your insight, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back right after this. Well, President Trump is meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin later this week in Alaska to end that war in Ukraine. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And hello, Alice. Thanks for joining us. The president has hinted that territory may be swapped, but Ukraine President Zelensky says that his country will not cede any land. Break down the statement for us, and do we know if President Zelensky will be attending the meeting?
So that's the main rub here, certainly, and it's been something that's held up efforts to reach a ceasefire in the past, along with the fact that, according to President Trump at least, that Russian President Putin continues to say that he wants a ceasefire and then continues to strike on Ukrainian cities, and that's something that President Trump has become increasingly vocal about, how frustrated he is over those actions. But as far as this question of territory, yes, President Trump said when he was asked about this on Friday that, quote, he believes there'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. The betterment of both is something that Ukraine is going to disagree on because they have long said that they are not going to give up territory that was seized by force by Russian occupiers throughout the course of this war. And now there's a question of whether that could, hold up any effort to actually reach a peace agreement at this point. We do know that a senior U.S. official tells NBC News the White House is considering inviting President Zelensky to the Alaska meeting, though Russian President Putin has said Ukraine was far from meeting its conditions for face-to-face talks. So whether that could actually, scuttle the meeting between President Trump and President Putin if the U.S. tries to bring Ukraine in is the question at this point. And the White House has said right now it's focused on the bilateral meeting of making sure that President Trump and Putin can sit down and try to chip away at some sort of an agreement to end the war.
Yeah, Al, let's talk about the shifting of tone here with the president. First, he seemed to be a very close ally with Putin, and now he's tossing out threats and adding sanctions. How does this play in that dynamic with their upcoming talks?
Right. So that's a really critical backdrop to these two men sitting down together on Friday at the end of this week. And yeah, in the past, President Trump had kind of touted having a strong relationship with President Putin, and that he thought was going to put him in a position of power, of going into trying to end this war, because President Trump had been promising on the campaign trail that he could end it on the first day of the war, or of his presidency, rather, his new term. And that has clearly not been the case. So as President Trump has continued to see how difficult it is to end this war, he has grown increasingly frustrated, and he has vocalized that. He's talked about Putin saying one thing and doing another, speaking nicely and then bombing, apartment buildings in the middle of the night. And he really has been much more vocal in that criticism. He's threatened to add additional sanctions against Moscow and to levy additional tariffs against trading partners. He's already done that in the case of India for buying Russian oil. So, yeah, he's taken some action. He's promised to take more if there's not a peace deal by a certain deadline coming up before long. And now that has all raised the stakes as these two men, sometime allies, sometime foes, sit down and try to reach an agreement.
All right, Alice, thanks so much. Really appreciate that. All right, help for kids who bear the weight of violence in the classroom could be on the way. We'll discuss that coming up next. Well, Atlanta is seeing more kids carry the weight of violence into the classroom. And one metro area nonprofit is trying to catch the trauma before, or at least at, the schoolhouse door. Right now, with us is Chantel Wright. She's the executive director for Atlanta Victim Assistance. Welcome to the show, Chantel.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be joining you this morning.
All right. First off, for those of us who may not know, share with us what Atlanta Victim Assistance is all about.
Absolutely. Atlanta Victim Assistance is a 40-year-old nonprofit dedicated to serving victims in the Atlanta area. We have a primary focus on crimes against person. So programs and services may look like survivors of domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, or even young adults who witness violence, survivors and loved ones from homicide, and many other services that we've have here in the city of Atlanta as it pertains to crime victims. Yeah. Since our conception in 1984, we have served more than 150,000 victims, and just last year we've served about 45 Atlantans. Mm-hmm. Something that makes us a little bit different is that we serve crime victims regardless of the arrest status. And our focus is connecting victims with resources and helping them cope as they move forward in life.
Yeah. One of the big outreaches that you have is something called Safety First program. How does that work with students as a method of support?
Absolutely. In addition to serving crime victims, there is a key part of our crime prevention efforts in our Safety First school-based program. This program has been around for well over 10 years, and it serves youth and an adult family member. The school partnership is with the Atlanta Public Schools as well as the Purpose-Built Schools Atlanta. These programs are active in Maynard Jackson High School and Carver STEAM Academy, and we just expanded to Luther J. Price Middle School, which we are very, very excited about this expansion. Going into Price Middle School is a significant milestone for us because it allows us to reach students as young as 11 years old, and it's giving us a crucial opportunity to intervene before harmful behaviors escalate. By reaching these students earlier, we can build resilience and equip them with skills that they need to navigate challenges, manage their anger and stress, and foster healthy relationships. The the continuum of care is especially powerful for Price Middle as it feeds into Carver STEAM, allowing us to support students throughout their full education journey. So we have on-site advocates housed at the school. Those advocates are working closely with the school social workers and providing resources and support to those students.
Let me
And
ask
the
you,
program has two components, and I'm happy to go into tell you a little bit more later.
I got you. Tell me how you identify students who need that help without stigmatizing them.
Yes, absolutely. So again, we're working very closely with the school social worker and counseling department. So they are identifying most of those students. However, we do have long waiting lists, particularly at Maynard Jackson High School, where students are eager to get in. So sometimes they're self-identified. They come up to their advocate that's housed in their school and say, "Hey, I really want to be a part of this program."
Yeah, I'm thinking some parents out there maybe watching. Quickly tell me how they can get their students involved.
Absolutely. Go to the school, talk with the school social worker. You're welcome to go to our website, which is atlantava.org. There's information there about this program as well.
Okay, sounds good. Chantel Wright, thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks for that insight.
Thank you.
All right. The hemp business in Atlanta area could be taking a huge hit with new restrictions. We're going to talk about it coming up. All right, Georgia's booming hemp market is taking the state to court. Retailers say the new rules from 21 and over limits to bans on smokable flowers and some THC drinks could crush them. Here to offer more of a take is Deanna Petrone, owner of the Hemp Haven with locations in Atlanta and Decatur. Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's start off with this. People who hear hemp and think marijuana, give us the 10-second explainer about the legalities and the THC levels on that.
Well, the difference between the hemp and the marijuana plant is that marijuana has high THC, low CBD, and hemp produces a flower that has high CBD and low THC. And usually most of all the products made in Georgia are using the hemp plant, which was legalized in the 2018 Hemp Farm Bill.
On the lawsuit, from the lawsuit's perspective, how has these new rules changed the average week in your shop?
Well, let's see here. We've had a considerable amount of revenue drop since October 2024, about 40%. It's been pretty stark. We've had to reintroduce a new way of consuming hemp products to our customers. So we've had to try to teach them how to drink products and also use tinctures and more gummies versus smoking. So it's just been real difficult because we're having to re-educate the customers on a new way of ingesting.
Yeah. Is there one particular restriction that hits you the hardest?
Well, let's see. The fact that we lost our flower was a real major thing because we get a lot of people from out of town that come from these legal states and they're looking for, some relief. They're traveling through Atlanta and then they find out that there's no flower and they need to figure out some different alternatives. Also, they made the gummies. They lowered the dosage on the gummies to 10 milligrams per gummy and only 300 milligrams in a bottle. And so that can be a little difficult for people that are dealing with chronic pain because they're using strong medications like oxycodone and morphines, and pain medications are very hard. And so that milligram of Delta 9 hemp, it does not translate well. It's not strong enough for someone that's dealing with surgery or dealing with a knee pain or a back pain.
Yeah.
So it's a little difficult because the customer has to ingest more product, which becomes a lot more expensive.
So what's the immediate relief that you're hoping the judge grants here, and what would you be able to do today or tomorrow that you can't do today?
Well, the immediate relief would be to be able to have flour back into the stores. That would definitely bring back our consumers and our customers that are opting to go to the black market to find questionable product versus coming into the stores and purchasing a product that is Georgia compliant.
If the court doesn't pause this enforcement, what's plan B for you? Would you have to do something as drastically as shutting down the business?
Well, plan B is we focus on education. We have been able to, we're teeter and tottering along. We're not planning on closing down, but definitely it is a lot harder, and we might have to start finding a way to pivot our business into some other type of industries. But hopefully Hemp Haven is going to stand strong, and we're going to do our best to be able to provide these CBD services to our community for as long as we can.
Yeah. If you had 2 seconds, right, you should tell a lawmaker sitting in front of you right now, you had 2 seconds to tell them of a good fix, what would it be?
Well, the most important thing for our lawmakers is to be educated on what CBD products are and how they're helping the community. My suggestion is to go to your local CBD stores. We're located in Avondale and in Chamblee. Pass by the store. All of our employees are very educated. We give free CBD classes to any customer that comes in. And so that's the best way to learn about how these products affect people and how these low dosages, they're expensive products and they're low dosages. And so if you're dealing with some type of ailment in terms of medical surgery or things like that, it's kind of going to be hard to get those strong products. So we urge them to just come into the store and get your education so that you can know what can work with you.
All right. Deanna Pardone, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and have a great day.
All right. 11Alive did reach out to the State Attorney General's office. Their statement, simply, we're reviewing the complaint, and we will continue to defend the law passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor. All right, you're watching The Take. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. The fate of a downtown Atlanta condominium high-rise could be in the hands of the Atlanta City Council tomorrow. They could vote on new restrictions to short-term rentals. Senior investigator Rebecca Lindstrom spent time in the building where she says the tension there is as thick as humidity. And I know something about that, Rebecca. What's exactly happening here?
Yeah, I figured that was a comparison that would hit home with you. The Landmark has always had short-term rentals, or STRs, long before platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo made them mainstream. The building has about 200 units, but what used to be about 20 STRs has now flipped to only about 20 full-time residents, and some of those are really unhappy about that change. They say the building wasn't designed to handle the demand tourists bring, and they say the lobby feels more like a hotel than a home. The elevators keep breaking, the AC, which is shared by the entire building, can't keep up, and the windows are in the stairwell, well, they're busted. I think we even saw birds that were growing and, building a little nest in one of the little window alcoves there.
Wow. What can the city do about this?
Councilmember Michael Julian Bond wants the council to vote on a measure that would cap short-term rentals at 10% in buildings like the Landmark, but only if the community votes to have them at all. Now, that would be a big change for a building like the Landmark, where, as we said, 20 STR units would now only be allowed if this passed. Now, they brought up the issue. They wanted to vote on it in July. That committee said, no, let's hold it until after our break. And so their very first meeting after that break is tomorrow. And that's why we've been trying to figure out if this is going to be on that agenda. There are questions about grandfathering, even if this does pass. Would that apply only to those who meet the current legal standard in the city, or would that be any STR that is currently operating? The city did pass, you might remember, we've talked about this before, STR rules in 2020, but they stopped enforcement shortly after, and that has actually been one of the delays. They've just not been doing anything. The council doesn't want to pass more rules if they don't have a clear legal path to enforce them.
Yeah, I understand you had a chance to talk to some of the Landmark board and some of the investors. What did they have to say?
Yeah, we really haven't heard their voice a lot in this, so I wanted to make that effort to reach out to them. Board member Jamie Waters sat down to talk with me. He rents out his unit and he lives in his unit, so he kind of splits it. He says the city, they have it all wrong. He says the community has kicked the can on maintenance issues for too long, and now there are a number of expensive repairs that need to be made. He says as a real estate agent, he says these problems are the same in every old building, not just ones with STRs. And Rachel Liu, who owns or manages about 50 units in the building, says investors like her are what is keeping that building afloat. She says sales are really slow right now, and the primary interest is coming from investors who know the building's location and that it makes it great for tourism. So she says if STRs can't operate, she doesn't believe regular homeowners will come. I asked Michael Julian Bond what he thought of this argument.
That's an interesting argument, but it is the current board of the condo association at the Landmark that has brought the building to its current state. They have driven out, owners who have lived there for decades with their practices and management. So, to come back now and say, oh, well, we're going to sink with the Titanic, when you're the one who drove the Titanic into the iceberg in the first place on purpose. So, I don't really put a lot of stock in that argument.
So Rebecca, the HOAs depend on getting those dues to help pay for these maintenance repairs, but Landmark seems to have some big ticket items. Are those repairs getting made right now?
To some extent, but admittedly, some of the disgruntled homeowners have stopped paying their dues. One owner says her monthly dues have gone up more than $400 in the past 2 years, and she's been billed $5,000 in special assessments. It's a lot of money. She says there are just people who can't afford that, but when you stop paying, well, then you face foreclosure, and that is one of the things that she is facing now. Still, though, those HOAs, like you said, they need that money in order to make those repairs. Chesley?
Right. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Really appreciate it. Now, tonight at 11, you can hear directly from the HOA board and investors as they explain why the city should not put a cap on short-term rentals. We'll be looking for that. And if you have a tip for Rebecca, check her out. You can call her at 404-873-911 or email her at investigates@11alive.com. All right, there may be some tech-savvy generations yet, but when it comes to money, Gen X is still learning to swipe right on their, Gen Z rather, expecting to swipe right on their financial future. A new Bank of America report shows that what's in their wallets is what's weighing on their minds. It found roughly half of Gen Zers say high cost of living is their biggest barrier to success. And slightly more than half don't even have enough in their emergency savings for 3 months. Can you believe that? Meanwhile, just a quarter of Gen Zers have contributed to their retirement account in the past year. Back with us on the show is Dawn Roden, Senior Vice President of Consumer Banking Regional Executive at Bank of America. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right, this is kind
Glad to be here.
Yeah, startling for me a little bit when we talk about these Gen Zers and their money habits getting better or worse or holding steady. Would you say that? Would you say they're getting better, worse, or holding steady?
Getting better. Look, they are stressed, and adulting for them is definitely not what they expected. So they are getting better in the sense of not relying as much on their parents to help them live away from home. But when they are out on their own, they are, again, struggling a bit. Costs are up, of course. Affordable housing is making it very challenging for them. They're feeling the squeeze in places like toiletries, rent, utilities, and dining out. And so adulting right now it's really putting the clamp on our Gen Zers.
All right, we said that over half of the, or more than half of the Gen Zers say the high cost of living is their biggest barrier, right? What's the best first step for them to push back against that?
Well, one thing they need to do is just think about, how they're spending and what they're spending. And quite frankly, they actually are doing that. And so they're taking a step back from going out. They're very vocal. Much more vocal than other generations about saying no to going out when they don't have it, very transparent about what they don't have. They're shopping at places that are less expensive. Grocery stores are finding places to shop that are less expensive. And then they are taking a step to say, hey, I need to save a little bit where I can. So they are smart in taking a step back from the larger expenses.
Well, they better be. I mean, if they want to survive, right? I mean, we talked about that, and you just mentioned how they are used to treating themselves, right? So how can they enjoy these moments without derailing their budgets?
Well, they are treating themselves. And so, this generation is the generation of self-care. And they have figured out ways to enjoy a little treat, to celebrate small wins, or if they won the week, and they'll buy themselves something small. They are finding ways to do that, and sometimes buying themselves something small a little too often. So more than half of them are actually buying themselves something multiple times a week. And that can be a watch item because, of course, it can lead to overspending. But it is a small way to not overspend.
Report says that 18% of them save a certain percentage of their paycheck. What's the simplest way to do it automatically for them?
So one, I would say, think about just any type of automated savings. Any windfall, to be perfectly honest with you, is a great way to save. And so any gift, a bonus, a side hustle, put that away, put half away, and then name it. If you name something new couch or Italy trip, it's a lot harder to, dip into that fund. And so even though small savings are great, those are great ways to actually track towards bigger savings.
Real quickly here, we got about 20 seconds. If you can look into your crystal ball and think about Gen Zers in the future, will they get worse or will it get better?
Oh, they'll be fine. This is a very, very smart generation. And at the end of the day, look, everyone's situation is different. That's why we always tell people, come talk to us. Walk into any Bank of America financial center, sit down with someone. We will help you figure it out. We will figure out a plan that works for you. And we know they prefer digital, so they can check us out on their mobile app and check out Better Money Habits. It's free, it's online. They can get tips, tools, and guidance anytime they need it on saving, budgeting, and really helping them tackle all of this.
All right, Dawn Roden, sending my son your way. Thanks so much, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Looks like another mall favorite store may be biting the dust. We'll tell you which one when we return. Welcome back. It's a diplomatic cliffhanger that's got everyone holding their breath. Will the U.S. and China truce get a lifeline? CNN's Sabeel Marcellus joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you. Sabeel, feels like a deadline that's got everyone more hanging on suspense more than your favorite thriller.
That's right. Good morning, Chesley. It does feel that way. And the specter of a massive tariff increase between the U.S. and China approaches by the hour. The current pause in that tariff showdown arrives tomorrow, and there's no clear path to a trade deal. In May, both sides agreed to a 90-day reprieve on staggering tariffs of 145%. Declared in April, talks were described as optimistic at July's U.S.-China negotiations in Stockholm, but then in May, that extension expires on Tuesday, with no indications that the pause will get extended some more. Right now, China's U.S.-bound shipments currently face a 20% tariff and a 10% baseline tariff, and an additional 20 to 25% duty on certain goods, while American goods to China face tariffs over 30% on most items. So, Chesley, there's a lot of tariffs there. Hopefully, a deal will come soon.
Absolutely. So, Sabeel, what does AI, chips, and tax brackets have in common?
Well, what they have in common is this unprecedented deal that's going on right now between NVIDIA and Advanced Micro Devices. They've agreed to give the U.S. 15% of their revenue from certain chips sold in China. And in exchange for those proceeds, the two chip makers will receive export licenses to sell their chips in China, according to sources familiar with the deal. Now, last week, Trump had said he would implement a 100% tariff on imports of semiconductors and chips unless a company was building in the U.S. Now, this new plan includes NVIDIA's H20 chip, which is used, Chesley, for artificial intelligence applications. Now, Trump had halted sales of those chips to China in April, but then he met with NVIDIA's CEO last week. And what we're really seeing here, Chesley, is the White House willing to make exceptions using tariffs as a bargaining tool.
Okay. And we got a mall favorite that appears millions of heirs may painfully be on a decline here. It looks like Claire's is counting down to maybe mass store shutting down?
Yes, Chesley, they are definitely a longtime customer favorite when it comes to affordable jewelry, gifts, and other fun trinkets. But mall retail staple Claire's may need to close over 1,100 stores soon if a new buyer isn't found. The legacy retail chain filed for bankruptcy a second time on August 6th, according to court records. The Illinois-based company, which has more than 1,300 stores across the U.S., has struggled financially due to the rise of fast fashion brands like Shein and Temu and new tariffs from supplier nations like China. Claire's CEO says the company has received multiple letters of intent of purchase its assets, but no deal yet, Chesley.
Okay, all right, this last one has us raising our eyebrows here. Breast milk ice cream?
Yes, I'm not kidding, Chesley. It does exist. We are far on the other side of the spectrum from vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. This new breast milk frozen treat is a collab between parenting brand Frida and an ice cream company called Odd Fellows. Frida's website describes the flavor as lightly sweet, a little salty, with hints of honey. And Frida points out that it's not made with real human breast milk. It only mimics it. Pints are available for a limited time, and you can buy them online at Frida.com. Chesley, big ice cream fan. Would you try it out?
No thanks. Appreciate it. So, Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. We're back right after this. Imagine graduating from high school not just with a diploma, but a $1,000 investment portfolio in your name. That's what every senior attending one of 3 high schools in the Athens area will be receiving upon graduation. That's what they'll get as a present. Here with more is Interim Superintendent of the Clark County School District is Dr. Jennifer Scott. Dr. Scott, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, talk to me. How did you pull this off? How does this program come to your students?
Wow. So this came to us back in March from one of our content coordinators, Ben Smalley, whose brother Logan is the founder of TED Ed, and he works directly with Gifted Savings. They piloted this program in California at Westbrook Academy, and they were looking for a school district to take it on as a pilot district-wide. And he immediately thought of us, his alma mater. So we were excited to be given the opportunity and immediately jumped on how can we make this happen for our students in our community.
Yeah. How do you see this program shaping the students' futures, financial futures beyond high school?
Yes, so it's more than just giving them $1,000. It's truly providing them with the knowledge and the education around what it means to invest those funds. And I think that that's the key part to this partnership, that it's not just about handing over $1,000 investment portfolio. With that comes a year long of learning for financial literacy purposes to build their capacity to understand all aspects of investment, those high risk, medium risk, low risk, so that at the end of the year, and these portfolios are turned over to them upon completion of the financial literacy program, they are truly educated and empowered to act on what it means to invest your funds, to save, to really plan for the use of those funds and ensure that it's providing for a prosperous future for you as an individual, but also for you as a family.
Yeah. What message does this send to the community about investing in our young people?
I think that anytime we invest into our young people, we're investing not just into them, but into our community, into the future of our communities, ensuring that we are prepared to be prosperous for perpetuity. So when we're looking at providing them with that education, then it's truly giving back to the community as a whole. It's not just our individual students. We're thinking about what does it look like long term for the future of our community.
Have you heard from some of the students about this opportunity, what they had to say about it?
Oh, they were excited. The day of, there was just great excitement to announce it. Somehow we were able to keep it a secret from them until the actual announcement. So it just felt great to see their energy, see their levels of excitement. They asked some amazing questions to really begin to for themselves to understand this opportunity that was being presented. And I think that for them, it's how can I then have control over that investment? for this first year, they will not be able to make any selections over what's being invested. They will all have identical portfolios that they're able to watch and they're able to learn from. And then once those portfolios are turned over to them, they will be able to make those choices themselves. So that's what I'm hearing from a lot of them, that they're excited to have that turned over to them, but to do it being educated on how best to utilize those funds.
When I first heard about this program, I was thinking, wow, I wish I had that when I was a high school senior. Were you thinking the same way?
Absolutely. I was thinking, as a senior myself, I was thinking for my own children who are now in their 20s that this would have been great for them. So it's never too late to learn, though.
Wow, man. I'm thinking like, how would my life have changed by now if I had this opportunity? So hopefully they are really appreciating this, as you said. Could this become a defining part of the school district's identity? A defining part of the school district identity?
I think that it can, because it provides us with an opportunity to really begin to instill in our students that this is something that they can look forward to when they become seniors. It becomes a highlight for them as seniors within the school district. It also supports our families in them preparing their students to really engage in this learning and to use it for their future, and to use it wisely as they're thinking about how they might begin to really invest even beyond the $1,000 that's being provided for them. But this is something that we're looking to endow within a 5-year period. Gifted Savings has done a very generous donation for this first year as well as the second year, but we are looking to our community to continue to support this so that we can be in a space within 5 years to truly endow it so that it does live on in perpetuity for all students that go through the Clark County School District.
Well, Dr. Jennifer Scott, I'm sure a lot of other school districts will be looking at you with envy, because this is a great program, and hopefully it'll begin to spread throughout other communities as well. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. When we return, folks, we're going to have a look at your forecast plus my final take. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. Wet weather, folks, that's what we'll be dealing with for today. Scattered showers with a few embedded thunderstorms will be around. We're not talking about any severe weather at all. We'll have a 50% chance for more scattered showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday. A little better chance for the thunderstorms on Tuesday. 85 degrees will be the afternoon high temperature, down to a 40% chance on Wednesday, mainly during the afternoon, scattered showers and thunderstorms. 30% chance on Thursday, and then Friday down to a 20% chance. And as that threat goes down for the rain, our temperatures will be going up to 90 degrees for a high on Friday. We'll hang out right there over the upcoming weekend. All right, before we go, those of you used to hearing a dial tone followed by some static and then hearing, "You've got mail," will soon be a thing of the past, like everything else, right? For over 40 years, AOL has offered dial-up internet service, but that will come to an end on September 30th. The hum and whirl of a dial-up modem was the first for many of us to connect to the internet. It peaked, the company peaked at nearly 10 million customers. That was in the mid-90s, but new technologies, faster speeds made dial-up a thing of the past. Believe it or not, they still have some customers on that, right? The company reporting the low thousands. And not enough to keep it up and keep it going. Pretty soon it'll just be a memory, folks. Out of here. You've got mail. I'll never forget it, of course. Maybe we'll never forget it. Or who knows? The next technology will make us forget it. That's all we got for you today, folks. Make it a great one. Try to encourage someone to, loose that AOL account. Get a Yahoo account. Oh, that's old too, right? Google's the thing now. Enjoy.